Hi folks, this is Ed, your Agile coach, and people were sending me requests last week after my video on how to use Bootstrap and HTML5 for buttons in MVC. Larry Gassick asked me to create a tutorial on how to do a round trip in MVC. So displaying data, manipulating it, and then doing an HTTP post. Larry, here is your long distance request and dedication. So let's go over what we are going to accomplish today. First of all, what we're going to do is we are going to create a model. Next, we're going to create a controller. Finally, we're going to build a view. And then we're going to bring all of that together and create an HTTP post. And this will show you the fundamentals of MVC. Before we begin, though, I want to do a little bit of theory. What is MVC? Well, it stands for Model View Controller, and it looks like the three legs of a stool. The model does something very simple. It displays data. The controller handles the manipulation of that data, and it can include business logic. And then finally, the view is the display of the data after it has been manipulated by the controller. So what you can do is you can take data from a database, update it, and then put it back in the database. Or what you can do is you can take data from a database and then format it as JSON and display it to others. There are all sorts of opportunities, but the fundamental model is that you have a view, a controller, and a model, and they all have specific responsibilities. So what are we going to do for our coding exercise today? Well, the product owner for your team is going to come up to you and say, hey, I want you to gather the names and ages of people at a party so I can properly market to them. So you take some time and you think about it and you create this little UML diagram for what you're going to do. You're going to create a class which has a first name, a last name, and an age. And then what you're going to do is you are going to add data to it via a controller and display it in a view. Let's get started. Here I am in Visual Studio, and this is my sandbox project where I show off coding samples to people so that they understand various concepts and where I can practice. So what I'm going to do is that in my MVC project, there's a folder called Models. Let's go into that folder and right-click it, and I'm going to add a folder. All right, in this folder, I'm going to call it roundtrip. So this is the folder that is going to contain the classes that I am going to use in this exercise. All right, now that I've created that folder, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a class. So it's add, new item, and I'm going to select class. And I'm going to call this party people. And it creates a class. So here's what you need to know. I have created a class. It's given it a namespace of my project, of the folder that it's in, and the subfolder. And now I have a name for my class. Next, I'm going to create a few properties of my class. And if you remember the UML document I showed earlier, I have a first name, a last name, and an age that I need to include. Let's type that in. So after a little bit of typing, I created 3 properties. Let's zoom in a little bit and take a closer look at it. I created a first name property that's a string, and I gave it a default value called first name. Then I provided it with a last name property and gave it a default setting of last name. And then I set an integer field to age and gave it a default value of 0. So why did I do this? Well, one of the settings in my Visual Studio is it will tell me if I've got fields with null values. So in order for me to avoid hitting that setting, I deliberately make sure that all of my properties for instantiated classes have a default value. Let's create some constructors right now, okay? And here's how we do it. We're going to create a constructor. So what we do is we go public, and we go party people, and then we set values for it. So we can say that the age is 0, that this first name is equal to first name, go this here, okay. And then we're going to go last name. So when you create this class and you don't provide any values, what will happen is that it will set these values to 0, new, and name. But what if I want a little bit more flexibility? Well, here's something that's magical. It's called overloading. I can overload this constructor. So let's say I want to provide a different way to create this object. I can go party people, and I can say, hey, give me a first name, a last name, and an age, and then set them. And you can also see that I don't need this setting because Visual Studio is smart enough to do that for us. Let's get even more granular. What if I know the first name and last name but don't know the age? Well, I can create a constructor to handle that. And we'll just say that we will provide a string for first name. Notice it uses the proper camel case for it too. That's really nice. So party people, I'll pass the first name and the last name to it. And I'll make sure that the age is always set to 0 whenever I don't define it. All right, so those are the constructors. This is the model that we have created. Now, let's apply it in a controller. Okay, here we are in our controller. Now, you notice that it's in the controllers folder. And so what I did is that I created a controller called roundtrip sample. So here it is. And you'll notice that all it has is an HTTP GET and an index page, and it returns a view. It's an empty view. There's no data in it. So how do we put data in that view? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to attach the model to the controller. And here's how we're going to do it. First of all, I like to use using statements. So we're going to go using Microsoft. Let's go, oh, wait a minute. Let's go Ed's sandbox. Let's go models. And then in models, I have a round trip item. and then we're going to apply that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a constructor for the controller. This is not required, but it is very helpful, because if you have code that executes over and over again, you can put it here in the constructor for the controller. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a object, and I'm going to make it private and read only. And I'm going to call it eds.net sandbox models round trip party people. And I'm going to define it with an underscore because it's private and read only for the controller, and I'm going to call it party people. And then in the constructor, what I am going to do is I am going to create that class to be consumed by the views. So we're going to go underscore party people. I did not do that properly. Let's make sure that's right. So there's underscore party people, and then I'm going to go underscore party people until the sense is smart enough to do it. And I'm going to go new party people. That's an empty constructor. If I wanted to, I could use the overloaded constructor, and I could put my name in it. So I could put and I could put my age. Let's do this. So now there's an object called party people with my name and my age in it. And then what I can do is I can return party people to the view and display it. So how do I create a view? Pretty straightforward. Right click next to the HTTP GET and go add view, and then choose an empty view. What that will do is it will create a folder in your views folder, and so in this case it's called round trip sample, and it will give it the name index. Let's take a look at that index file. So here we are in the index file, and I've just put some boilerplate Bootstrap code in here so that it's easy to view. So I've got an H2 tag, a lead describing it, a little bit more descriptive text, and then some boilerplate for the form. But I need to do one more thing, and that is I need to add the model. So what I need to do is I need to add space for the model. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to type here in the form, I'm going to go model. All right, and this is telling me the model that this form is going to manipulate. And then I'm going to go eds.net sandbox dot models, and then I'm going to go the MVC basics, or no, it's a different model. Hang on a second. There we go. There we go. Round trip, and then it's party people. That's what I need to do. And then we'll put an ampersand there, and that is the code which hooks the model to the view so I can display it properly. Let's run it and see what happens. So as you can see right now, this is my sandbox page, and I've got a little link at the bottom that is going to show and demonstrate our exercise today, and I called it MVC Round Trip Lab. So I'm going to click it, and there's our form. it's pretty underwhelming. And the reason why is because we're not doing anything with the model, and we're not displaying anything associated with the model. So we need to do more work in the view in order for this to be a little bit more interesting. All right, I've gotten a little bit of a head start, and I've added some boilerplate code to make the form look good. And now let's add the form to it. So first of all, just so you can see, you can nest tables and columns within Bootstrap. So what I've done is that I've got a row with one column that's 12 long. I've got an H5 tag and a horizontal rule, and then I nested another form in it, and I made it background light. So now let's add the hooks to make it a form. So we're going to create a form, and the method of the form is going to be an HTTP post. And then we're going to close that tag. I'm going to move this form close tag from the top down here. Oh, that didn't work out really well. Let's try again. Let's close the form tag. So we've got a form here. We've got a div tag that needs to be moved over so that it looks neat and orderly. I think we're all set. All right, so now I've got a form that does an HTTP post. Let's create a label or a text box to hold the first name. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create an input, and the ASP4 and then we're going to give it the object name, and the object name is going to be party people. So we'll copy that, and we'll just put it in there. And we'll give it a class, and we will call it form control. And that's it. That's all I have to do. Now, if I wanted to, I could take, in fact, I am going to do this. I'm going to take and I'm going to make this 8 boxes long, and I'm going to create a label to go in front of it. So copy. And I'm going to make it 4. Now here's the magic, is I'm just going to put some HTML in here. First name. That's it. So now, when I display it, I should see a form. Oh, wait a minute. I put the class there. I need to put the name. So first name. There we go. All right. And so now when I display the form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a form with first name, last name. Let's do that now. So here we are on the control, and take a look. There's the form control. But we've still got a lot of work to do if we want this to look good. So let's keep going. I saved a lot of time in typing here, so I want to show you what I did. First of all, I created additional fields for the other properties of that class. So I created a last name class and a label, and then I created an age label and then a form control for it. and then I added some buttons. And if you want to know what's happening in these buttons, please go and watch my tutorial on buttons in MVC. I think you'll find it very interesting. So here are all the fields. Let's do a quick run and we'll show you what's happening on the MVC view. Here we are in the MVC view, and look, the values are here. I can go John Doe, and then I can set this to any integer number. It also comes with a wheel. Because it's an integer field, MVC and Bootstrap are smart enough to know, hey, it's an integer field. We should probably have it behave like an integer field. So this is the form. What if I want to change the size of the boxes? Let's suppose that I have a very long last name and I need more space on the form. Let's show you how that's done. So here we are again in that form. Now you notice that I've got columns here, and each of them are valued at 4. Remember, Bootstrap thinks in 12s, so you can have 12 columns across in any configuration. So as long as everything adds up to 12, you're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this last name field, and I'm going to go from a column 4 to a column 8. And I'm going to get rid of this padding here that I added. Now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save, and I'm going to run it again, and we're going to see what happens. Here we go. Look at that. It's longer. It's a bigger field. And it's all because I deliberately set it to be a bigger field. All right. So now we have done the work of setting up an MVC view in order to behave like a form. Now let's tie everything together and create a postback. So this is what I've done. I have created another instance of index, and I have given it the modifier HTTP post. So it will only execute when an HTTP post is done. It takes the party people object from the view and then passes it in and does something with it. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a view bag, and I am going to concatenate first and last name and then pass the rest of it into the object that I created. I'm also going to do this. I'm also going to create an empty string for this view bag so that I don't get an error. So I'm going to put that here. Okay. And then we're going to run it. All right. Again, what happened is when I hit the post, when I hit the button, it's going to pass the object, the entire object, the view that I created and attach to the view in a postback. And then I can take the properties of it, parse them out, and update them, and then return them back. Let's run it and find out. I'm mighty excited to see this work, so let's give it a try. There we have our form. Again, I'm going to change this to and I'm going to make sure that John Doe is a sprightly 18 years of age, and then we're going to hit submit. Now we're going to walk through. Notice it doesn't go to the get action of index, it goes to the post. So we're going to step through it. And we return. And you see, hey, there it is, John Doe posted back on the page. And that's it. Today, we've learned how to create a view, we've learned how to hook it into a controller, and we've learned how to create a model in Microsoft MVC C#. So, if you want to learn more, feel free to like and subscribe on this channel. And I look forward to doing more tutorials with you in the future. Thank you, And happy coding, everybody.